The message that destroyed my life came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Hey, why did you block me on your baking page? I had not blocked anyone. I rushed to check my account, and what I found made my blood run cold. My entire online presence had vanished into thin air, but somehow, impossibly, I was still there. Let me start from the beginning, because this story will make your skin crawl and your heart race in ways you never expected. Her name was Tara Martinez, and she sat 3 cubicles away from me at Henderson Marketing Solutions. Every morning, she would bounce into the office like a golden retriever on espresso, her perfectly curled hair catching the fluorescent lights, her laugh echoing through the halls like wind chimes in a hurricane. I should have seen the warning signs from day one. When I wore my vintage emerald blazer to the company Christmas party, Tara showed up the next week in an identical one, claiming she had ordered it months ago. When I brought homemade lavender cookies to the office potluck, she arrived with store-bought versions, insisting she had been planning to make the exact same recipe but ran out of time. But I did not hate her. Not at first. Tara was the kind of person who made everyone feel like they were her best friend. She remembered birthdays, brought coffee for the whole team, and had this infectious energy that made even the most mundane Monday meetings feel like a party. I found myself drawn to her warmth, her apparent authenticity, her way of making everyone feel special. I should have known that someone who made everyone feel special was probably making no one feel special at all. The trouble started when my side hustle began to take off. What had started as a simple Instagram page, sharing my grandmother's vintage recipes, had slowly grown into something magical. I called it Whispers from Grandma's Kitchen. And it was my escape from the corporate world that was slowly suffocating my soul. Every evening after work, I would rush home to my tiny apartment, tie on my grandmother's faded yellow apron, and create content that felt like love letters to a simpler time. I would photograph perfectly imperfect cookies, share stories about my grandmother's life during the Great Depression, and post recipes that had been passed down through generations. The response was overwhelming. Women from across the country began sharing their own family recipes in my comments. They posted photos of their grandmothers, told stories of Sunday dinners and holiday traditions, and created a community that felt more like family than anything I had ever experienced online. Within 6 months, I had gained 50,000 followers. Brands started reaching out. Small companies wanted to collaborate. Food Network had even sent me a message asking if I would be interested in a feature story. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I was building something that mattered. That was when everything changed. Tara began showing up to work in vintage aprons. Not just any vintage aprons. Aprons that looked suspiciously similar to the ones I wore in my posts. When I complimented her on them, she would giggle and say she had always loved that whole retro aesthetic. Then she started using my hashtags. I would post a photo with tags like #VintageVibes, #Grandma's Recipes, and #Authentic Baking. And within hours, Tara would post her own content using the exact same tags. When I asked her about it, she looked at me with wide, innocent eyes and said she had been using those hashtags for months. But the breaking point came when she started copying my captions word for word. I posted a heartfelt story about my grandmother teaching me to make her famous apple pie during the last summer, before she passed away. The post went viral, shared thousands of times, with comments from people sharing their own memories of loved ones they had lost. 3 days later, Tara posted the exact same story, claiming it was about her own grandmother. I felt sick to my stomach. This was not just copying anymore. This was theft. She was stealing my most precious memories, my most vulnerable moments, and presenting them as her own. I confronted her in the break room on a Thursday afternoon. The coffee maker was gurgling in the background, and fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I tried to find the words to express my hurt and anger. "Tara, I need to talk to you about something," I said, my voice shaking despite my efforts to stay calm. She looked up from her phone, her face a picture of innocent confusion. "What's wrong, sweetie? You look upset." "I noticed you have been using some of the same content ideas as my baking page," I said carefully. "And yesterday, you posted a story that was almost identical to one I shared last week." Her laugh was like breaking glass. "Oh my gosh, are you serious? I mean, we both like vintage stuff, right? It's not like you invented baking or anything. But the story about your grandmother, that was my story, Tara. Those were my memories. Her eyes went cold for just a moment, like clouds passing over the sun. Then the bright smile returned. I think you might be confused, honey. That was definitely about my Nana Rose. Maybe we just have similar families. I walked away from that conversation feeling like I was losing my mind. Was I overreacting? Was I being paranoid? Maybe it really was just a coincidence. But deep down, I knew something was very wrong. The next few weeks passed in a blur of increasing anxiety. I would post content and then obsessively check to see if Tara had copied it. I started taking screenshots of my posts as evidence. I began changing my posting schedule, hoping to throw her off. Nothing worked. She was always there, always watching, always one step behind me like a shadow I could not shake. Then came the night that changed everything. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone before sleep, when the message appeared in my Instagram DMs. It was from @Sweet Memories from Sarah, one of my most loyal followers who had been with me since the beginning. Hey, why did you block me on your baking page? I tried to comment on your apple pie post, but it says I cannot access your profile anymore. Did I do something wrong? My heart stopped. I had not blocked anyone. I never blocked my followers unless they were being inappropriate or spam accounts. Sarah was one of my favorites. She shared the most beautiful photos of her own baking experiments and always left the most thoughtful comments. With trembling fingers, I opened Instagram and tried to access my own profile. The page would not load. I tried logging out and logging back in. Account not found. I tried searching for my username. Nothing. My account was gone. Completely gone. 5 years of work, 50,000 followers, hundreds of posts, thousands of memories. All vanished as if they had never existed. I called Instagram support, but of course there was no real person to talk to. I filled out form after form, sent email after email, but received only automated responses about community guidelines and policy violations. I felt like I was drowning in quicksand. But then, as I was desperately searching for any trace of my deleted account, I found something that made my blood turn to ice. There was a new account with a username almost identical to mine. Where mine had been @Whispers from Grandma's Kitchen, this one was @Whispers from Grandma's Kitchens, with an extra S that was barely noticeable. The profile photo was my face. Not a similar photo, my actual face, with filters applied to make it look slightly different. The bio was my bio, word for word. The posts were my posts, my photos, my recipes, my stories about my grandmother. But the name on the account was Tara Martinez, and underneath her name, in blue letters, it said public figure. She had not just stolen my content. She had stolen my entire identity. I sat in my dark apartment, staring at the screen, feeling like I was trapped in a nightmare. She had somehow gotten my account deleted, and then created a new one using my photos, my content, my life story. And the worst part? She was already selling sponsored posts. Companies were paying her to promote their products using my image, my recipes, my brand. I reported the account immediately. Instagram's automated system responded within hours. We have reviewed the account you reported and found no violation of our community guidelines. No violation. She was literally using my face, my content, my life, and Instagram saw no problem with it. I felt rage unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was not just anger. It was a burning, consuming fury that threatened to tear me apart from the inside out. But instead of letting it destroy me, I decided to let it fuel me. I spent the next week documenting everything. I took screenshots of her posts. I saved copies of my original content from backup files on my computer. I gathered evidence of the timeline, showing how she had gradually escalated from copying my style to stealing my entire identity. Then I did something I had never done before. I started over. I created a brand new Instagram account @Authentic Grandma's Kitchen. I uploaded a single photo, me in my kitchen, holding a sign with that day's date and the words, "This is the real me." In the caption, I told the truth. I explained what had happened. I shared screenshots showing the stolen content. I posted side-by-side comparisons of her fake posts and my original content. I was vulnerable, raw, and completely honest about the betrayal I had experienced. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, my post had been shared thousands of times. People were tagging their friends, sharing their own stories of online theft, and expressing outrage at what had happened to me. But I did not stop there. I started creating content that she could not fake. I posted videos of myself baking, talking directly to the camera, showing my face clearly as I worked. I brought my actual grandmother into some videos. She was 87 years old, and had the most beautiful, wrinkled hands that told the story of a lifetime of cooking and love. I posted behind-the-scenes footage of my tiny apartment kitchen, showing the chipped countertops and outdated appliances that were uniquely mine. I shared videos with timestamps, weather reports, and current events that proved when and where the content was created. Most importantly, I let people see the real me. Not the filtered, perfected version that social media usually demands, but the authentic, imperfect, passionate person who just wanted to share her grandmother's recipes with the world. The account grew faster than I had ever imagined possible. Within 2 weeks, I had gained back 20,000 followers. Within a month, I was at 75,000, more than I had ever had on my original account. But the real victory came when brands started reaching out. Not just any brands, major companies that had been working with Tara's fake account. They had discovered the truth and wanted to work with the authentic version of what they thought they had been promoting. Food Network reached out again. This time, they wanted to feature my story of resilience and authenticity in a segment about online fraud and identity theft. A major cookbook publisher sent me a message asking if I would be interested in writing a book about my grandmother's recipes, and the story of how I had rebuilt my online presence from nothing. Everything was falling into place in ways I had never dared to dream. But the best was yet to come. On a Tuesday morning, exactly 3 months after my original account had been deleted, I received an email that made me scream with joy so loudly that my neighbors probably thought I was being murdered. The subject line read, "Instagram verification approved. Congratulations. We have reviewed your account and confirmed your identity. Your account now has a verified badge." The blue checkmark appeared next to my name like a badge of honor, a symbol of authenticity that could not be faked or stolen. I immediately posted a photo of the verification badge with a caption that said simply, "Authenticity always wins." The response was incredible. Thousands of comments poured in from people celebrating with me, sharing their own stories of overcoming betrayal, and expressing gratitude for the inspiration my journey had provided. But I was not prepared for what happened next. Within hours of my verification going live, Tara's fake account disappeared. Not just hidden or deactivated, completely gone, as if it had never existed. I later learned from mutual connections that Instagram had been building a case against her account based on the evidence I had provided and the reports from my followers. The verification of my authentic account had been the final nail in the coffin. She had been permanently banned from the platform. All of her stolen content, her fake followers, her sponsored posts, everything vanished in an instant. I felt a satisfaction so deep and complete that it was almost overwhelming. Justice had been served in the most poetic way possible. But the story does not end there. A few days later, I ran into Tara at the grocery store. She was standing in the baking aisle, staring at packages of flour with a look of defeat that made me almost feel sorry for her. Almost. When she saw me, her face went through a series of emotions: shame, anger, fear, and something that might have been regret. "I suppose you are happy now," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I looked at her for a long moment, this person who had tried to steal my life, my identity, my dreams. And instead of anger, I felt something unexpected. Pity. "I am not happy that you are hurting," I said honestly. "But I am happy that the truth won." She opened her mouth as if to say something, then closed it again. Without another word, she walked away, her shoulders slumped in defeat. I finished my shopping and went home to my kitchen, where I spent the evening creating content for people who genuinely appreciated authenticity over imitation. The months that followed were a whirlwind of opportunities one had never imagined possible. The cookbook deal came through. Food Network featured my story in a primetime special about social media fraud. I was invited to speak at conferences about authenticity in the digital age. But the most rewarding part was the community I had built. My followers were not just numbers on a screen. They were real people who had been touched by my story, who had found inspiration in my journey, and who had learned the value of staying true to themselves even when the world seemed to reward imitation. I received messages from people who had been victims of identity theft, from content creators who had been copied, from individuals who had found the courage to start their own authentic journeys because of what I had shared. One message, in particular, made me cry tears of joy. It was from a young woman named Emma, who had been afraid to start her own food blog because she thought everything had already been done. After following my story, she had launched her own account sharing her Mexican grandmother's recipes, and it was growing beautifully. "You taught me that authenticity cannot be copied," she wrote. "Thank you for showing me that the real me is enough." That message reminded me why I had started this journey in the first place. It was not about fame or followers or even justice. It was about connection, about sharing something real and meaningful with the world, about honoring the memories of those who had come before us. 6 months after my verification, I received one final message about Tara. A former coworker told me that she had tried to create new social media accounts multiple times, but each one had been quickly identified and banned. Instagram had flagged her identity permanently, making it nearly impossible for her to build any kind of authentic online presence. She had eventually left the marketing firm and moved to another city, but her reputation in the industry had been destroyed. Word had spread about what she had done, and no company wanted to hire someone who had been caught stealing intellectual property and committing identity fraud. Part of me felt sorry for her, but a bigger part of me felt vindicated. She had tried to steal my life, my work, my identity. But what she had discovered was that authenticity cannot be stolen, copied, or faked. It has to be earned through genuine effort, real experiences, and the courage to be vulnerable and true. Today, as I write this story, my Instagram account has grown to over 200,000 followers. My cookbook, Whispers from Grandma's Kitchen, a story of recipes, resilience, and redemption, became a bestseller. I have been featured in major publications, appeared on television shows, and spoken at events around the country. But more importantly, I have learned that my worth is not determined by my online presence, my follower count, or my professional success. My worth comes from my authenticity, my integrity, and my willingness to be genuinely myself in a world that often rewards pretense. Tara tried to steal my identity, but she could not steal my character. She copied my content, but she could not copy my heart. She imitated my style, but she could not imitate my substance. In the end, her attempt to destroy me actually made me stronger, more successful, and more authentic than I had ever been before. And that blue checkmark next to my name? It is not just a symbol of verification from Instagram. It is a symbol of something much more valuable. The verification that comes from staying true to yourself, no matter what the cost. The last time I checked, Tara still tries to tag me in her Instagram stories on the few accounts she manages to create before they get banned. But here is the thing about being permanently banned from a platform. When you post something, nobody sees it. Her voice has been silenced by her own dishonesty, while mine has been amplified by my commitment to truth. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor, and sometimes justice is not just served. It is served with a side of poetic irony that makes the victory even sweeter. If you have made it this far in my story, I want you to know that whatever you are facing, whatever betrayal you have experienced, whatever theft of your dreams or identity you have endured, you have the power to rise above it. Your authenticity is your superpower. Your truth is your weapon. Your integrity is your shield. And no one, no matter how skilled they are at imitation, can ever steal the real you. Thank you for watching this incredible journey of betrayal, resilience, and ultimate victory. If this story inspired you, moved you, or reminded you of the power of staying authentic in an often fake world, please subscribe to our channel for more true stories that will shock, inspire, and empower you. Your support means everything to us, and together, we can continue sharing stories that matter. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of truth seekers and authenticity warriors.